Imagine a world in which between every continent is the Bermuda Triangle. Unnavigable seas, insurmountable mountain ranges, a bottomless trench in the middle of the world, torn by an age-old act of rogue sorcery. This kind of thing is catnip for Nerve, or Nerve Nip. You put that nip in my face, and I'll snaffle it all dang night. This is Gagaabu.
Cut! You idiot! You gosh darn buffoon! Do it again, and do it right this time.
This is the Gagaabu trilogy, The Legend of Heroes 3 through 5, the series within a series within a series, predecessor to the beloved Trails saga. Gagaabu being the name of the aforementioned bottomless trench, each game in the trilogy takes place on a different continent surrounding it. The Legend of Heroes 3, The White Witch, is a JRPG of legendary status. Considered to be the crowning jewel of the trilogy, The White Witch follows the pilgrimage of Julio and Chris, two youngsters who depart from the village of Ragpick to complete their coming-of-age ceremony, a journey across the continent of Tiriswheel. Across the land are 5 magic mirrors, which the pair must gaze into as part of their people's age-old rite. Along the way, they encounter a giant sea monster called Galga, witness the draft of hesitant soldiers into a pointless war, make friends in high and low places, challenge a wicked sorceress, and sup upon the milk of human kindness as they see the lands beyond their home for the very first time. And maybe, just maybe, they'll fall in love along the way. It's all very heartwarming. If you think The White Witch sounds a lot like Trails in the Sky, you're not wrong. Julio and Chris are essentially prototypes for Joshua and Estelle. The journey across Tiriswheel is just as much an act of virtual tourism as is the travel across Liberal to become bracers. There's even a serialized novel to collect and turn in at the end of the game in exchange for the ultimate weapon. It's no surprise that White Witch was the favorite game of Kondo Toshihiro, scenario director of Trails in the Sky and current Falcom president, who maintained an extensive fan site for the game before joining the company at the turn of the millennium. And The White Witch, as well as its 2 sequels for that matter, lives and dies by its writing, as this is an RPG that is profoundly uninterested with the genre's mechanics. Your party members are static and largely uncustomizable, save for 2 accessory slots that allow you to slightly buff specific parameters or nullify status ailments. There's comparisons to be made with Lunar, another series memorable for its strong casts and narratives, yet very simple in terms of mechanics. This comparison is most apparent in Hudson's 1998 port for the Sega Saturn, Mouhitotsu no Eiyuu Densetsu. Oh. I see. Well, that's definitely not right. Or another Legend of Heroes. The comical animated cutscene you're watching now looks very apiece to game art's oeuvre. This is, in my opinion, the most attractive and interesting version of the White Witch, but it's also the most mechanically light. The game strips back combat entirely to only include plot-specific battles. An interesting approach for sure, and one that makes for a digestible experience for those who are grind-averse, but the rest of the game design wasn't really tailored around it, so in practice you're running through big empty fields unhindered. I guess that's probably the most realistic experience of a pilgrimage, though. The White Witch is, to this day, praised for its strong writing and distinctive characters. It also has one of the stupidest subplots I have ever seen in a video game. Like, stop playing, roll over, go to sleep, stupid. So, up front, caveat. I'm playing the 2006 PSP localization from Bandai Namco, which is quite poor in terms of quality, to put it lightly. At the time of recording, a fan/pro translation circle Geofront announced a patch is underway for the 1999 Windows remaster, so if you're keen to check this game out, maybe it's worth waiting for that patch. That said, I don't think this issue is one that can be solved with a competent translation. Let's get right into it, and I'll explain why. In the game's second chapter, Julio and Chris are ahead on their pilgrimage and about to cross the border from the kingdom of Menarth into the neighboring Republic of Chanam. At the border, they encounter Grandpa Rule, an elderly man who, despite possession of a valid passport, is refused passage by an overzealous guard. It turns out this is Rule's grandson, Red, who doesn't want him to go because he knows he's on his way to the casino city of Dice to gamble all his money and come home empty-handed. A valid concern, but you can't play border god just because you disapprove of your grandpa's habits. You know what? I don't think you should be working the border at all, Red. Your grandpa's gambling addiction is a more pure profession than yours. Border Patrol are class traitors. Red tells Rule to go home, but he cunningly plays on his grandson's sympathies. An elderly man can't be walking through the wilderness alone, so he butts his way into the party, and Red can't very well turn the pilgrims away, so he has no choice but to allow Rule passage as the latest member of their entourage. As the party traverses the wilderness to Dice, Rule's proven to need little protection, as the grandpa is a powerful spellcaster quite capable of taking care of himself. Once they reach the gates of Dice, though, he excitedly dashes off to the casino with scarcely a goodbye. Chanam is a state consisting of 2 settlements. Obviously, there's Dice, the verdant and prosperous casino town, which is also the seat of power. Prime Minister Barron's mansion sits in the north end of the city, and it transpires that the casino is, in fact, a state-run institution. Anybody is allowed to gamble, even women and children, according to one townsperson. That means everybody has a chance to be a millionaire. What a beautiful city! Now that's what I call egalitarianism. Due south of Dice, the greenery quickly gives way to decay as an oppressive poison swamp covers the country's southern edges. In the middle of the swamp is Dartu, a shantytown village of Chanam's poorest and hungriest citizens. The National Casino certainly hasn't benefited these people. But back to Dice for now. Rule, true to his unlikely name, is an expert at roulette. Engaged in a fierce battle against the pit boss, he wins tens of thousands of coins several turns in a row. Julio and Chris begin to doubt the claim that Rule always goes home with his hat caved in. Just who is this old man? Well, if you're gonna stay, you gotta play, so an employee named Meyer invites the party to sample a roulette game. The house lends them some coins, gratis. If they lose, that's it. If they win, they pay back the advance, keep the profit, and can bet again with their own money. This isn't actually a gambling minigame, but a binary choice between red and black in which the player is always destined to win. Meyer gives the party a pretty gold coin to keep, and offers the next game as a double or nothing round. Incapable of smelling a rat, the kids accept the offer. In this case, no matter whether the player chooses red or black, the ball always lands on the green 0. According to the rules, the house wins. But this doesn't mean that the party just loses their coin. Oh no. This coin was valued at 1,000 pirs, Tearswheel's currency, and when the house wins, the loser is liable to pay back 1,000 times what they bet. It's a system that doesn't make any sense, and naturally wasn't communicated to the party before they placed their bet. Now they're 2 million in the hole, Meyer mocks the party for falling for such an obvious scam, and bouncers confiscate all their money and valuables. Most importantly, their silver dagger, the artifact which serves as proof of their pilgrim status, granting free board and transport across the continent. Without the silver dagger in their possession, the young pilgrims are stranded. Rule takes notice of what's going on and takes a quick break from his winning streak. He chastises the kids for getting tricked, but tells them to wait at the inn for him while he speaks to the casino staff. Sure enough, Rule comes back with the party's money and the silver dagger. Apparently he's buddies with Prime Minister Barron, and threatened to blow the whistle on staff tricking some poor pilgrims. He's quite familiar with the magnetic functions the roulette table employs to bilk suckers. However, he asks the party for a favor in return. Nothing too big, just heading over to the Prime Minister's mansion to carry some boxes. I hope you're ready for some bullshit, cause that's exactly what you're gonna get. With Rule at the helm, the party are warmly invited into the mansion to meet with Baron. Rule promptly hands over all of his winnings. money that ostensibly belonged to the country to begin with, in exchange for several boxes of lentil seeds. Apparently this is a deal the two have. Baron buys loads of lentil seeds and keeps them handy, and Rule comes to town to win big money, which he then uses to buy the seeds. Is this Chanum's perpetual economic machine? Alright, so what's the deal here? Well, Rule has a plan, you see. Take the seeds to the poor people of Dartu in hopes they'll plant them to grow crops. He won't just give them his casino winnings. That would be a handout, according to him. It's a teach a man to fish situation. Trickle-down lentilnomics. Well, we say it's a teach a man to fish situation, but Rule doesn't actually educate the villagers on how to cultivate crops. He just leaves them the boxes and hopes they'll figure it out on their own. Since they're all starving, they just eat the lentil seeds. So he goes back every few weeks with more casino lentils. This time he's got Julio and Chris to cart a few extra boxes down to Dartu. Surely there's got to be a better way, right? If Chanum are so prosperous, certainly some of this money could and should be redirected to helping the citizens who need a hand up. Well, Baron explains, I should make regulations, but the casino is so good for the economy, even though it widens the gulf between the rich and the poor. Despite this statement, Baron isn't portrayed as a villain, but rather a benevolent head of state helping facilitate an admirable act of philanthropy. I don't know what to say about this. This is infuriating. It's literally the crushing Bort tweet. You'd half expect Baron to start complaining about the pesky age of consent laws. But moreover, Rule's plan doesn't make any fucking sense. Dartu is a village of despair, and who can blame them? The villagers have been living in poor conditions for so long that they feel a complete lack of hope. Wealth disparity aside, the poison swamp is growing, tainting the land and coming dangerously close to contaminating the nearby river, the village's only water source. Can this land even support a lentil field? Well, the party make their rounds. Rule makes some kids dance for him in exchange for some beans. And we meet Mayor Napu, aka Mayor Napping, because he loves to take naps. Napu wants to rally the villagers and get them involved in farming, but thinks now it's not a good time. When would be a good time? When Torova, the traveling Kithara player, comes to town to play his songs. He only comes once per year, but fortunately, he's due any minute. And here he is, the man of the hour. Torova plays a motivational montage song, but one of his strings immediately snaps. Despite being a traveling musician, he's brought no spares. All the townsfolk take it as a bleak omen and scatter to get under the covers and sob. We go and fetch some spare strings from a nearby grandma's house, but Torova refuses to play. He's scared the string will snap again and requires a forceful pep talk to do his job. I was furious enough at the dynamic between Dice and Dartu, but Torova, everybody in this story is a loser. Anyways, he finally plays once more. The strings don't snap, but the villagers snap into action, pledging to finally plant the lentil seeds, and the seeds of hope, to make Dartu better and even more prosperous than Dice. Well, good luck with that. But what about the poison swamp? Won't the lentil fields just immediately die in this tainted land? Well, if we go back and talk to that grandma who gave us the spare Kithara strings, she informs us that it was actually a poison swamp of the mind. The villagers manifested it because they were so down in the dumps. Now that they heard Torova's cool song, the poison will dissipate all on its own. The moral of the story? I don't know. Obviously there's some worrying implications that Dartu's economic misfortune is its own fault, and absolutely no interrogation of the role that a state-sponsored crooked casino would play in this situation. This seems to be representative of a bit of a tendency towards Reaganomics at Falcom, as we see an incredibly similar subplot occur in East 9, Monstrum Nox, a game that released in 2019, a whole 24 years after The White Witch.
As the sentinel between the dark and light, I, Aprilis, herald the fall of this dusk.
Trapped in the prison city of Balduke, Adol bumps into Krisha, the youngest daughter of the Pendletons, a merchant family who happen to be the richest corporation in the area. Money has been disappearing from the company's coffers, so the Pendleton patriarch, fittingly named Riche, employs Adol as a Pinkerton to investigate if there's a link between the recent thefts and the fact that the residents of the nearby shantytown are experiencing newfound prosperity. Ah, Riche. You can see the rule, baron, and dice naming conventions have stuck around for a long time. As you'd expect, these two events are linked. A Catwoman/Robin Hood figure called the White Cat has been redistributing Pendleton's gains to the poorest in the city. She stands upon the rooftops, raining coins down to those who need it the most.
Whoa!
Awesome! You've all suffered under the oppression of the Roman Empire and the pollution from the mines. It's high time someone recognized that you all deserve more! Good fortune to everyone!
Turns out the White Cat is Krisha. She's disgusted with the actions of her cold-hearted father, driven solely by the company's bottom line, collaborating with the colonizing force that turned the city into a prison, and overseeing mining operations that have polluted the soil and water of the shantytown area, leading to disease and famine. That's a slave labor mining operation, by the way. As the White Cat, Krisha's actions ensure the residents aren't starving, and has even allowed the sick to purchase life-saving medicine. This is portrayed as a bad thing.
They were thankful. And they still are. But lately...
Never going back to that stupid job ever again. Yeah, the old lady ain't getting nothing. It's going towards the booze and gambling fund. After today, I ain't got a single coin left myself, let alone for the missus. You're a real half-wit, you know that? What? Next time, I'll double what I've lost. Just have to send the wife a coin or two to shut her up. Oh, would it kill the White Cat to quit being such a cheapskate and cough up more coins? You can say that again. Who else is gonna fund my retirement?
Eventually, Krisha realizes what she must do. Rather than steal from her family's company to give to the poor, she opens a flower shop in the shantytown, evidently aiming for the residents as her customer base. And this is portrayed as a great act of growing up. The shantytown residents have barely any money, denied work in the mines in favor of the prison slavery system. They only have what the White Cat gave them. Is Krisha expecting them to spend money on flowers rather than food? And if they do, isn't this a reverse Robin Hood act? The money of the most impoverished just goes back into the coffers of the Pendleton Company. It's not as mind-numbingly stupid as the Dice and Dartu segment of White Witch. It's still stupid, but it's slightly more coherent in its callous attitude. Honestly, I don't know what's been going on over at Falcom for the past several decades. Personally, I reckon it's unlikely that anybody writing these stories gave their ramifications that much thought at all. But I did, because I'm a massive nerd. And I think we all learned something today. Whether it's 1995 or 2019, video games are still stupid. Okay, that's a bit crass. Good storytelling will always be subjective. Even how one defines good can be multifaceted or contradictory. I'll use good interchangeably to describe something I think is high quality or something that's goofy but enjoyable. Night in the Woods is good. Resident Evil is good. For the most part, I think The Legend of Heroes is also good. Generally, Falcom excels at establishing a sense of place, and each entry has its share of likable, memorable characters with strong personalities. A lot of these characters are based on the same archetype, which gets a little silly when a game like Trails of Cold Steel 4 brings them all together for a grand finale, but that's neither here nor there. There is a lot to like about the White Witch, and Gagaabu, and Ys 9. I just thought it'd be fun to look at some particularly ridiculous world building. Hope you enjoyed this quick one. So what's the stupidest video game subplot you've ever seen? Sound off in the comments! If you're feeling generous, give me a like and subscribe if you'd like to see more. It'll help me out algorithmically in strange and unknowable ways. If you're feeling extra charitable, I have a Ko-fi link in the description of this video, and any donations will go into improving the quality of this channel, like funding a webcam that doesn't make it look like I have a dirty face. Look at this, it's no good. It's not dirt on my face, it's a faulty camera. But most importantly, don't be like Grandpa Rule or Krisha. Join a union, support your local food bank. And until next time, remember to stay sassy, stay sour, and never log off.